Manhattan in a Shirt and Tie Part 2. 5 years earlier, when a drama student girlfriend and I had learned about the wonders of the necktie, well, she taught me about the act of love and its relationship to artistic license. We would have been discovered by my mother if she hadn't been a quick change practitioner. I talked to the olive-skinned man when he approached, working consciously not to let the visions of the past escape my lips. The item I had desired had been a print of Dolly's melting clocks. The tie died into its fibers. He casually informed me that the ties on the display case cost $25 apiece. Our disagreement in price was understood, and I casually found my way back to the street, but not before I attempted to push the B-52s and talking heads on him. It was almost a great afternoon for burning down the house with David Byrne. Trying to move that record drew me into thoughts of Until the End of the World, and I watched fluidly back through traffic and down an alley a couple of doors down from that cascading toilet of noir. The corridor opened on the right into a market under a canvas tarp tent where hustling vendors were selling pirated copies of unreleased Hollywood blockbusters taped on camcorders by devious photographers out to capture a few of the drifting Benjamins awash in the current under the surface of rough trade. That couldn't exist on the level to any other cultural epicenter in the East. Maybe Chicago had a confidence game going, but the operations of its denizens were more visible and easier to successfully circumvent. A whiskery African near the Chicago Housing Authority confronted me one morning as I had just crossed the street to attend economics class. I was sporting a topcoat and boots, and he stopped me for gasoline money. Before the snapping retort I hoped to fire off, he offered to sell me his driver's license. Out of curiosity, I asked him to let me look at it. The face on the license was a Caucasian profile. The story got better when the line changed, and suddenly the weather-beaten photographic identification was his brother's. I handed it back to him and wordlessly proceeded across 33rd to the Escher Concept Building, where I carefully noted my Indian instructor's lecture. The net result of the exchange that I had with a quick-talking Mexican wearing a thick chain wrapped like a tow rope and a boss shirt was that he wanted half the product in my display for $50. I should have predicted that he would want to put the merchandise into circulation himself. He gave me his "Yo no tengo lo mucho dinero" rap. Before I could reverse the pitch on him, and I ended up macing my way back to 42nd Street. When I came to the realization that I hadn't eaten since noon, I blistered my drying eyes down to the wide terrace of Broadway. Words sequenced along old theater buildings formed two parallel lyrical structures of intentionally placed public performance art. There were a few strollers to click their heels against the hum of the motion back on Fifth. At some point in the space between the babblings of the sign work, I managed to detect the scribbling of Chinese. I had to cross the street to narrow in on the menu written in English, taped to the window within a girdle of kanji washed flyers. in colors ranging from neon orange to pale mauve. I sat down and ordered Kung Pao chicken and let the cumbersome baggage of plastic and laser burn media rest on the chair 45 degrees away. The dinner came with an egg roll, hot and sour soup, and my own tray specialty of prepared tea with tiny cups lacking handles. The teapot was ornate, with interwoven garden vines flowering into petals that could only have bloomed in the climate of the opposite hemisphere of the globe. I thought back to renting Enter the Dragon and seeing Bruce Lee pose for combat among the mirrors, and then free associated back to my first taste of Mugu Gaipan, across from my old supervisor Rick, who hired me for a Christmas assault on the shoppers of Summit Park Mall. I helped him open the gate of Impulse World in the week preceding Thanksgiving. He let me listen to tapes of the Smiths Information Society and The Cure, borrowed from Rob while my other friends from the 1990 class election campaign stormed in and out, with newly purchased statues of Buddha and several finger exercise balls. The Fascination Street of the Orient was alive in my hometown. Customers looking for more elegant acquisitions sought out kimonos, 3-foot wide animated collapsing fans, and dressing blinds made of thin painted stone. I redesigned the RADSYS dissipator software documents, and before I was invited to work outside of the cooperative forum, my fingertips cruised through the menu of WordPerfect for DOS in a newly moused world until I was virtually a professional at typesetting. When I left the tip, I was generous. Where else in the world can you be flooded by an ocean of good memories for $4 and some change? I made it to 10, and the bell above the door signaled my exit with a renewed sense of chi. I worked beyond the magnetic poetry of the Broadway signs, my footfalls finding turf all on their own as I changed streets and crossed the uninviting face of a brownstone. What appeared to be an old factory of unknown production capacity beckoned, cutting through unlocked wooden doors. I broke the threshold of the complex and found my way forward to a freight elevator with diamonded collapsing brass rails and climbed aboard for a ride, not unlike one of my meddlings earlier in the day. I was hoping that this engagement would come to a similar result to that of my morning conquest, which had not been far from where I stood at that moment, to the general misfortune of the endeavors of humanistic reformers who had recently made headlines with news of the calculating coldness of the Kathy Lee Gifford advertising and manufacturing establishment, the members of which attempted to effectively put a stranglehold on market share for women's discount business satire through a here-to-remain anonymous national retailer. My target audience for the pre-approved shtick of my present employer evaporated as I assessed that these were not members of the privileged blue-collar class of low-level middle management that I had had the good fortune of establishing for the most part. A direct line of friendly, convenience-oriented, one-way communication that generally concluded with an educator's consumer's intent to purchase. These beaten brows were those of the victims of the ancient art of war in the condition of the economies of the modern capitalist mode of operation by stealthy, less than aristocratic foreigners making a business of the corruption of the frail American dream that barely came to realization for very few citizens of this country in the time predating the Johnson administration. The sweatshops of the city on the island were real. Above the streets of Liberty, the pale green copper heroine in all her glory stands with a torch to light the path to freedom for both women and men alike. With the dead Kennedy, she showed us the next step into orbit. Lunar landers launched by the National Association of Space Administration with Reagan. She helped us realize the means to align the stars in our favor with satellites and telescopes placed by Columbia and the Challenger. And with patience and progress, she will lead us toward a recognition for the need for societal reformation. One day the bamboo cage housing those missing in action from the front lines of the healthy, educationally enabled family construction force will have its flimsy frame unfastened. Entangled threads of stitch will cause the fracture of the needle of brute ignorance that binds the beauty of the imagination of the creatively sold Chinese American to the fabric of the garments of the globally dominated superstore consumer, bringing the political garblings of my own partially aware mind to a close. It can be concluded in abbreviated form that the observer and the overseer sent me away from a battalion of potential music listeners with two simple words that need not be repeated for the simple sake of commonality. As he closed the wooden gate that divided me from the attention of the poor spirits of that class that goes without relief within the living field of possibility that we like to reflect on as we fixate ourselves on network television programming from the couches so easily earned, with the stylistic business of simple scientific methods learned during the teenage years that cannot be afforded as a result of their contracts with the doers of the clandestine evil of the philosophically, politically, and socially challenged, whose motivation lies with those residing in the valley below the river Styx. For the sake of clarification, greed.